Hello and welcome to Market Mixers, the show where we shake cocktails and stir up your investment ideas. I'm Selby.
And I'm Armina Rosenberg, better known as ARMS, and today we are diving deep into the heart of the matter.
Literally.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking healthcare diagnostics, so the tools and technology that we use to measure, detect and monitor what's going on the inside.
Yes, that's why we're drinking a cardio cooler. It's fresh, minty, and probably good for your heart health. If your cardiologist asks, just say it's a green juice.
Now, before we get started, just remember that this is for entertainment purposes only. If you're looking for actual investment advice, please see your financial advisor.
Okay, with that, let's dive straight into the pulse of the healthcare diagnostics market.
Cheers.
And try these cocktails. Yum.
Really good.
Yeah, it's probably the best one we've made so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a low standard. Yeah. I love we had the same thought.
Oh my God. Okay, let's talk about investing. How would an everyday investor even begin to analyse these kind of companies?
Yes, so I would think of diagnostics as sitting between science and workflow. There's kind of a few key questions to ask. The first is the care pathway. Where does the product sit in the patient journey? Does it replace an old test, or does it triage, who needs an expensive one? Or does it give new information completely to a clinician that they didn't have before? The thing is, if you can't map that pathway, then it can be really hard to value the company.
Right, so it's very important that you understand where it plugs into the system.
Yeah, exactly right. And then step 2 is the evidence. So you need to understand how accurate it is. And metrics like sensitivity and specificity come in handy for that. Boy, don't say that 5 times fast. Lucky we're not through this yet, because I definitely wouldn't be able to say sensitivity and specificity. Woo, just did it again. So sensitivity is basically how well it catches the disease when disease is present, i.e. fewer false negatives. And then specificity is about how much it avoids crying wolf, so fewer false positives. And then evidence is also about whether it leads to actual outcomes. Are you seeing fewer unnecessary procedures, faster diagnoses, or a shorter length of stay? Those kind of better outcomes. Then in terms of actual evidence, there's different levels of evidence, if you will. So randomized controlled trials, they're the best kind. They're the gold standard. Whereas if you've got small sort of one-site studies or just opinions, they're less impressive. And actually, they could potentially be a red flag if that's all you're relying on. So the key is figuring out whether it actually changes clinical decisions.
Right, so I guess if it's just like an expensive trial, it could be a red flag, but it has to actually change what a doctor does.
That's exactly right. And then the next step is regulation. So in the US, the FDA pathway matters because it dictates speed to market and also what the company is allowed to say. So when it comes to the FDA, there's sort of 3 ways you can go about it. There's a 510K, which is where it is very similar to an existing product or device, and so it can mean a faster speed to market. And then you've got PMA, which is pre-market approval. That's the highest bar. That's when the FDA has determined that it's high risk or just unlike anything else that they've seen out there. So it can be a lot slower to kind of go through. Then you've got de novo, which sits in the middle of those two. So it might be a new product, but the FDA could see that it's sort of less to moderate risk in terms of, if they stuff something up, then it actually doesn't have a hugely dire outcome on you. And so that kind of sits in between in terms of the speed between PMA and the 510K.
Right, so it's like driving lanes and like fast, medium, slow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then if you look at Australia and Europe, they all have their own sort of regimes as well. I find that Australia, which is dictated by the TGA, which stands for the Therapeutic Goods Administration, that seems to follow the US and Europe mostly. So step 4 is reimbursement. Even great tech can die if no one's willing to pay for it. And that's about, kind of weighing up the cost versus benefits analysis, or maybe it's just too expensive. And so investors need to look at coverage rates, codes, and pricing. Category 1 CPT codes in the US are the holy grail. That basically means that you can rely on insurers to pay reliably.
How important is it to follow the money when investing in these kind of companies?
Yeah, I think it's very important because, if you do really, really need something, even if it's like, $100,000, are you going to pay for it? Probably not.
Tricky question now. Minotaur is all about using AI to accelerate our research. In this new AI research-led world, do you really need like specialist knowledge of healthcare companies, of diagnostic companies to be able to invest in them?
That's a hardy topic. Sorry, that was a very lame father's joke there. Look, I do think that AI is helping to remove the need for specialized knowledge to analyze specific sectors. I mean, I wasn't an expert when I started at looking at healthcare or diagnostics or anything like that. I had to speak to a whole bunch of healthcare experts and doctors and radiologists to glean that. Having said that, I think that there's still value in talking to the experts, because what they do is they give you the specialized knowledge to go and interrogate something like ChatGPT in a lot more detail. Like, as you know, when you give ChatGPT or any of the generic large language models context, they become so much better. And that's one of the reasons why we're developing Torian, right? Because it has the specialized finance knowledge and our specialized internal research within it that it can relate to.
But for retail investors out there, like it's, maybe they don't know how to use ChatGPT as well as you do.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how they can, I guess, prompt better for like analysing healthcare companies?
Yeah, I mean, not just healthcare companies, as you know, I think
All companies?
All companies, you should be using Prompt Cowboy. That is like the best thing since sliced bread, honestly. And shout out to Prompt Cowboy. It's actually an Aussie startup. So basically, I put every single prompt pretty much into Prompt Cowboy before I put it into ChatGPT. I think their tagline is, it turns your lazy prompts into great ones. And I think that's the case. It'll be able to tell you what sort of data points to look at in a research paper, or what things to concentrate on. Now, having said that, if you've got, a radiologist friend or a cardiologist friend or any doctor friends, it's worth having a conversation with them to find out what they would look at and how they analyze whether a product is adding value or not.
Even just asking them if they're using it at their clinics or hospital, I think that would be really helpful as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the real interesting question. How do these businesses actually make money?
Yes, I think most use one of a few models. So there's a per test fee for a service per scan, or there could be like software as a service subscriptions, maybe on a monthly or annual basis, or there could be a hardware and consumables model. So think like razor and razor blades, or it could be a hybrid of those. I think one of the key questions is how much human labor is still in the loop. The more automated it is, the higher the margins are going to be.
Who are the actual stakeholders that are involved in these kind of businesses?
Yeah, I think people assume it's just the radiologist or, clinician that's using it. But in diagnostics, the buyer is rarely one person and requires kind of commitment from everyone in the hospital system. So the clinician who orders it, they're obviously important. The radiologist, radiology or cardiology department, they run it. Then IT has to see how it integrates into the whole system. So things like your picture archiving and communication system, or PACS, and even like EMR, so electronic medical records, they have to put it in as well.
God, a lot of acronyms in medicine.
There's a lot of acronyms in medicine. That's why I'm trying to spell them out. And then you've got the finance team. They have to like make sure they've got the budget for it. And then you've got the payer, like who makes sure that reimbursement can happen as well. So all of those things have to work in tandem for a product to be accepted by a hospital.
And I guess it has to actually improve outcomes.
Oh yeah, that too. The patient needs to get something out of it. Who would have thought?
Okay, so you talked about Heartflow before. How does that fit into the system?
Yeah, so they still have humans checking each scan. They've massively reduced it, and that's been, one of their key selling points. Artrya, which is a competitor that I've mentioned a couple of times, but they're aiming for almost zero human touch, or at least having, the ability to get a diagnosis while the patient is still in the room.
What does that mean for like the future of cardiology then? Goodbye.
I think that you still want, a specialist to tell you exactly what you're looking at and what you work for. Like, I don't think anyone ever trusts AI to do, in a similar fashion to like, we don't let AI run our portfolio, right? And I don't even know if we got to that point whether any of our investors would be comfortable with us doing that. So I do think that there's still a world where all the radiologists and cardiologists and specialists, are still needed.
What about RadNet? You've talked before about it being like one of your favorite picks and shovels healthcare company. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, I think I see RadNet as the quiet achiever. It's like one of the largest outpatient imaging center providers in the US. I think they've got like almost 400 centers.
Like the Douglas Hanley Moyer of the US?
Yeah, exactly right.
Cool.
And basically they are, they've been offering that service, but they're starting to layer AI on top of that with their deep health division. They're basically developing proprietary AI solutions for imaging of, I think, breast, lung, and prostate. And recent studies actually show that their deep health AI can boost breast cancer detection by 21%. That's actually how we came to own the stock. So we didn't know RadNet at all. We owned another US microcap stock called iCAD. And iCAD has been using AI in mammography for, I think, the last 20 years. So they've been the clear leader. So it's called iCAD because it's a provider of CAD, which is computer-aided detection for breast cancer. And we owned that. It was actually RadNet who acquired it, and that's how we ended up owning RadNet shares. But we saw iCAD as being the leader in breast cancer detection using AI. And so RadNet is becoming, I guess, that leader across a whole bunch of different specificities. So their edge is about monetizing throughput. They're trying to find faster ways to do scans, shortened sort of queues, and better scheduling. And that's why we like it.
Right, it's kind of like the Uber of radiology, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably an accurate description. I mean, they're improving capacity and utilization in the same way that Ubers have improved taxis. So, yeah.
Let's dive into Artrya. It's done exceptionally well over the last year. I think it's up like 8.5 times. What makes it so special?
Yeah, so Artrya takes a standard cardiac CT scan and instantly delivers a 3D view of the coronary arteries. So showing where plaque is built up, where it's severe, and how blood is going to flow eventually through those arteries. It's kind of like Google Maps for your heart.
Wow. Does it have like, I don't know, any indication of whether you're going to have like a car crash or like a build-up or some sort of traffic accident?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've just added plaque. They had anatomy as well that have both been FDA approved. And flow is next. And each module basically piggybacks off the FDA pathway of the one before. So as they add more products to the system, they get faster approvals as a result. And the plaque module actually shows where you're, maybe in the danger zone, so to speak.
Oh my God, it's kind of like SaaS for cardiologists.
Yeah, that's right. It's modular, scalable, and at the point of care. And the big idea is cutting the turnaround time from hours to minutes. So instead of waiting days for results, a clinician can actually tell a patient what they think when they're in the room.
Right, so like fewer unnecessary procedures, hopefully like quicker turnarounds, and probably a very happy CFO at the hospitals.
I'd hope so, because the economics are pretty compelling. Like when you see that volume ramp up, the margin should be closer to a software company rather than a medical device company.
As I mentioned before, Artrya has done like ridiculously well this year. It's up hundreds of %. Do you think it could go like even higher from here, or would you be like trimming right now?
No, we still hold it. It's one of our biggest positions in our portfolio. It's early days, so I think the recent re-rate priced credibility, but not ubiquity. So the next step is execution, right? What we need to see is how those go lives go in the US with different hospital systems, because they're going to be the reference sites that tells us what sales velocity and payer conversations are going to look like. And then the second thing is, they're starting to monetize anatomy. We need to see them monetize plaque as well, because that's going to really increase that revenue per scan that we're seeing. And then the third is going to be seeing how they deliver the operating leverage. So, if we've got this software first model, we think that it's going to be a high margin business, but are they actually going to deliver that? And then, taking all of that aside, the relative valuation between Artrya and the category leader, which I've talked about a couple of times already, Heartflow, is super vast. So I think Heartflow is trading at like US 2.8 billion. Artrya is like US 200 million. And I think, that difference is like, I think it kind of talks to Artrya being undervalued and potentially Heartflow being overvalued as well.
Okay, well, you've talked about Heartflow a lot. You obviously are not keen on that stock or that company. You were shorting it a few months ago, which was not the right call. What did you learn from that, and why do you still not like the company?
Yeah, I think shorting it was the wrong call, because basically what I learned is that everyone's enthused about the industry generally. Everyone thinks that AI is going to have a big impact on healthcare, and that's definitely true. So it's a bit of a like rising tide lifts all boats situations. The reason we were short Heartflow as well is mainly on valuation grounds, and actually pure valuation grounds is often not a great case for shorting. I think with shorting you do need a catalyst. So it was funny, I was trying to find a catalyst in that Heartflow used to have a find a provider page on their website, and I was thinking you could like count up all of the providers, obviously using Torian or AI, and that would give you an indication of whether they're adding providers or reducing providers. But cleverly, or funnily enough, they've stopped providing that page.
No.
So hedge funds like us can't go and count every single one anymore. So they've obviously cottoned on to that being something that someone might track. But look, we respect Heartflow. It's the category's best known platform. It has the biggest evidence base. It has the category 1 CPT codes for the CT scans and the full coverage. But for us, it really was about valuation. Like, I think both Canaccord and Morgan Stanley recently have put out initiation reports on Heartflow. And if you read the valuation paragraph, it says, we're valuing this at a premium to the premium or high growth medtech and diagnostics group. So basically a premium to the premium. Like,
wow,
you know, having been a former sell-side analyst, you know that you've tried to juice it to the nth degree when you're saying, oh, we need to value it at a premium to a premium. So I think, look, that probably mostly speaks to Artrya being undervalued. I think they say that the serviceable addressable market for both those companies is like 5 billion. And analyst estimates for Artrya in like FY27 is for, I think, closer to 40 million in revenue. So 40 million is a bit of a far cry from 5 billion. We've got a long way to go on that one.
Wow. Okay. I assume there are risks, just like if you drank way too many cocktails. There definitely are risks in stocks.
Yeah.
What are the risks in investing in these kind of companies?
Yeah, so I think with diagnostics, I'd watch sort of 5 things. So the first is reimbursement drift. The codes can change really easily, and that can crush margins overnight, particularly when you're in this era of, you know, RFK Jr. and Trump, who have their own sort of opinions on healthcare. You know, they could crush the codes very quickly. And then there's adoption friction. So hospitals move really slowly. And basically, if you can't figure out how to easily get them to integrate or train up their clinicians, then it could take a really long time for hospitals to adopt. And then there's execution risk. So the first couple of hospitals really matter. You want them to be kind of the litmus test of what you're doing. And then there's regulatory risk. We talked about how Artrya still has one module to go on FDA approval. There could be the risk that that just never gets FDA approval, right?
Wow.
And then the upshot of all of the 4 risks that I just mentioned is that you need funding. So the longer something takes, the more cash that you're burning. And these are cash burning businesses, these diagnostics companies. And so you might die in the process of waiting for them to get to an outcome there. No pun intended.
Sounds like you need a lot of patience to invest in these kind of companies.
Yeah, sadly, there's no algorithm for patience.
Oh God. Okay, let's like summarize it all. What's the key takeaway for investors here if they're going to invest in diagnostics companies?
Yes, I think AI in healthcare diagnostics, it's like the early days of fintech. So it's reshaping how information flows, improving speed, accuracy, and outcomes, but you've got to pick your battles. So it's all very well and good to have a clinical validation, but you need the commercial validation as well. And that's the key to seeing how they go kind of as they go on.
Is there like maybe an investment cocktail recipe that you would recommend?
Yes, obviously I've said already, like we like RadNet as a stable point. So I'd say a
like
blend.
2 shots of RadNet?
Yeah, 2 shots of RadNet, 1 shot of Artrya for growth, and you're like, you know, pretty nicely tipsy. So have we laboured the cocktail puns too much? I think so at this stage.
No, never. Oh my God, what are you talking about? Well, thank you so much, Arms, for sharing all your ideas and insights today. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed sharing this cocktail with you today, learning all about diagnostics companies.
No worries. Thanks, Ali.
Cheers.